what was unique about the pandemic? Was it that many previously covert interests became temporarily visible, like the recent aurora borealis in Northern Europe? Suddenly, something that is always there became visible to a new population. Hang on a minute, the pharmaceutical industry and the state are operating in conjunction with these unelected bureaucratic bodies in order to centralize authority and generate profit. Is that what it was?
I think there's two things that make the COVID situation somewhat dramatic, at least. I wouldn't say unprecedented, but certainly dramatic, because we can actually make the argument that certainly the establishment of the Commonwealth was the legitimization of the British East India Company, and that company's 86% of its trade was opium. So unambiguously, this is not a new phenomenon. The difference probably is the degree to which the audacity of the direct suppression of civil and human rights was part and parcel of this exercise. And I've seen it, as I've said many times, as a marketing exercise to see exactly how far the complicit population will go before they start pushing back. Because I think that's really what it was. I think this was a market test more than it was a substantive act. And the fact is that the market test was to see how far humans are willing to allow themselves to be caged, curtailed, limited, delimited, everything else. And I think that what we really did was we had a market test on humanity, and humanity came with a, let's just say, not a passing grade.
Have you got any corroborating evidence that indicates or even proves that it was that? Are there
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You only have to go to the Global Preparedness Monitoring Board, look at the decade of vaccines that they published in 2011. They actually said that they were going to do this. They said by 2020, we were going to have a universal acceptance, a universal vaccine mandate across the world on a universal platform. And then in September 18th of 2019, they specifically said that there would be an accidental or deliberate release of a lethal respiratory pathogen. This comes right out of their document, Global Preparedness Monitoring Board, September 18th, 2019. And in that document, they said the purpose of it was so that by September 2020, the world would have a universal vaccine plan. Period. That's not an allegation, that's an accusation, because it's reading right out of their script. So this is not putting the pieces together. This is something basic. I know it challenges a lot of people, but it's called literacy. You just have to read their plan. And if you actually, God forbid, read the words on the page, you actually see that this was nothing but a market test, which is the reason why we have Answer Corporation, ATI, Forsmarsh, and the companies that were involved in the rollout of this pandemic. We have them all setting up the marketing program, which was the launch of Event 201 and other things, where they actually told us exactly what was going to happen. They told us what the media was going to sound like. They told us what the marketing was going to sound like. They told us all of these things in advance of this bullshit story of patient one in Wuhan. All of this was theater to get the public to accept the next round of the drug trade. And the next round of the drug trade is genetically modified humans.
I wonder if you could send us some links that we can post in the chat.
Absolutely.
For example, in particular, the various documents that you've referred to that permit you to make those accusations, just so that we can learn together from the brilliant work that you've done in compiling these narratives. I mean, it's extraordinarily significant. So really what you're saying is that many of them, what seemed to be the most outlandish statements that could be located online at the commencement of the pandemic, are closer to the truth than what you would see on the BBC or NBC or the New York Times. How do you tally that with something like the discovery that in Ukraine, through DIA, they are now monitoring and observing Ukrainian transactions and have tied digital identity to the ability to shut down bank accounts, causing some Ukrainian civilians that refuse the conscript to have their assets frozen? Do you think that the control of finance, social credit scores, digital ID are part of this, launch, as you very explicitly said, next phase of the drug phase, genetically engineered or altered humans? Do you think part of that is civilian management through technological dictatorship?
Well, no question. It's not by accident. Dustin Moskowitz, the name I love to mention that nobody seems to ever bother to keep reciting, and I encourage people to do it. But Dustin Moskowitz, the co-founder of Facebook and the guy behind paying for Event 201 and the guy behind paying for a number of other things, including his joint venture with the Wellcome Trust through Syncova and a number of funding sources. This program is about once again, making sure that there is an ability to access a control mechanism on human beings. And by genetically modifying people with mRNA, by doing all sorts of those kinds of manipulations, and then by encouraging things like central bank digital currencies and all of the kinds of things we're supposed to track on our phones, the vaccine passport or the personal identity transactions, all of these things are meant to control and limit the ability for the free association and the free movement of thoughts and ideas in people. If you're going to actually control and manipulate a population, what you have to do is effectively create house arrest for the non-compliant.